Vipina Purandara Navina Nagarabora Vamsivadana Suvasa Vipina Purandara Navina Nagarabora Vamsivadana Suvasa Braja Jana Palana Surakulana Sana Braja Jana Palana Surakulana Sana Nanda Godana Rakavala Nanda Godanara Koala Govinda Manava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Sundarananda Gopala Damuna Tatachara Gopi Vasanara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Jamuna Tatachara Gopi Vasanara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Jamuna Tatachara Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natavara Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natavara Bhakati Vinodasraya Bhakati Vinodasraya Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Kali Adamana Vidana Kali Adamana Vidana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava
Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari. Today we're reading from 6th Canto, Chapter 17, Text 17, Text 6 through 8. So 6 does not have a purport. So I guess we'll choose 7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Jnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svavadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyashta Kripasindhubheva Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I guess first I'll just read text 6 and then we'll chant 7 together. I guess we're just going to recite text 7 and then read everything. 6, 7, and 8. So text 7 on the board. Tadharasti vratapa Brahmavadi sabhapati Angikritya Sriyam Kachaste Gatari Prakrito Yata Tadharasti vratapa Brahmavadi sabhapati Angikritya Sriyam Chaste Gatari Prakrito Yata Tadharasti vratapa Brahmavadi sabhapati Angikritya Sriyam Chaste Yatahi Prakrito Yata Tatadharasti Vratapa Brahmavadi Sabhapati Angikritya Sriyam Chaste Yatahi Prakrito Yata. Tadhara. Keeping matted locks of hair. Vratapaha. Highly elevated due to undergoing fierce austerities and penances. Brahmavadi. Of strict followers of the Vedic principles. Sabhapatihi. The president of an assembly. Angikritya. Embracing. Striyam. a woman. Cha and aste sits. Yatarihi without shame. Prakritaha a person conditioned by material nature. Yata just as. Okay, so I'm going to go back, read text 6 because it doesn't have a purport, then move on to text 7. So text 6 says, Chitraketu said, Lord Shiva, the spiritual master of the general populace, is the best of all living entities who have accepted material bodies. He enunciates the system of religion. Yet how wonderful it is that he is embracing his wife, Parvati, in the midst of an assembly of great saintly persons. Text 7. Lord Shiva, whose hair is matted on his head, has certainly undergone great austerities and penances. Indeed, he is the president in the assembly of strict followers of Vedic principles. Nonetheless, he is seated with his wife on his lap, in the midst of saintly persons, and is embracing her as if he were a shameless, ordinary human being. So, purport, Chitraketu appreciated the exalted position of Lord Shiva, and therefore he remarked at how wonderful it was that Lord Shiva was acting like an ordinary human being. He appreciated Lord Shiva's position, but when he saw Lord Shiva sitting in the midst of its saintly persons and acting like a shameless ordinary man, he was astonished. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that although Chitraketu criticized Lord Shiva, he did not offend Lord Shiva like Daksha. Daksha considered Lord Shiva insignificant, but Chitraketu expressed his wonder at Lord Shiva's being situated in that way. And then I'll read text 8 too, because they're all kind of together. Text 8. Ordinary conditioned persons generally embrace their wives and enjoy their company in solitary places. How wonderful it is that Lord Mahadev, although a great master of austerity, is embracing his wife openly in the midst of an assembly of great saints. Report, the word Mahavritadharaha indicates a brahmachari who has never fallen down. Lord Shiva is counted among the best of yogis, yet he embraced his wife in the midst of great saintly persons. Chitraketu appreciated how great Lord Shiva was to be unaffected even in that situation. Therefore Chitraketu was not an offender. He merely expressed his wonder. So the kind of like a little like glorification of Lord Shiva, and then Chitraketu's response to seeing Lord Shiva and Parvati embracing in front of an assembly of sages. So Chitraketu is first glorifying Lord Shiva, saying, Lord Shiva, you're the spiritual master of the general populace. So does anyone know some of Shiva's disciples? Here he's saying he's the spiritual master of the general populace. Does anyone remember some of his disciples that Lord Shiva has? Both? Well, right now it's saying general populace, so that means everybody. Yeah, so that's one category of people who is Lord Shiva is the spiritual master of ghouls and ghosts, hobgoblins. Yeah. Yes. So the Prachetas, it's another group of devotees that Lord Shiva is acting as the spiritual master of. Ravana. Yeah, even was he the spiritual master of Ravana? Or was he like kind of like the worshipable deity? Which is I guess the same, but because Kamsas also worship Lord Shiva too. So I guess even Kamsa. Jarasandha. Yeah, a lot of the demons they kind of worshipped Lord Shiva to get powers. That's kind of Lord Shiva took that role a lot with the demons. So yeah, we can name a bunch of demons. But there was also, yeah, like the Prachetas, that's a good example. And then there was Maitreya. I think he was also a disciple of Lord. Not Markandeya Rishi. I meant to say not Maitreya. Markandeya Rishi. He was also a disciple of Lord Shiva. It was described that Gargamuni. He was also a disciple of Lord Shiva. Even Narada Muni, he was a disciple of Lord Shiva, in one sense. Durvasa Muni, so many. So, and then even Lord Chaitanya himself, he said that Lord Shiva is the guru of everyone, of all moving and non-moving entities. So these are like some glorifications of Lord Shiva as being the spiritual master. So that's what it means when this is being said. So he's the best of all living entities who have accepted material bodies. So in the Bhagavatam, it describes how Lord Shiva is the best among Vaishnavas. There's a verse near the end saying that of all rivers, the Ganges is the best. Of all supreme entities, Lord Achyuta is the best. Of all Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva is the best. And of all Puranas, Bhagavat Purana is the best. So here, Shiva is being glorified as the greatest of all living entities who have accepted material bodies. Which is interesting because it kind of answers one question, because we hear that Lord Shiva, he's the greatest Vaishnava, but then we also hear descriptions of the gopis and other devotees being, particularly the gopis, being the most exalted. They're the best. But then we're hearing that Lord Shiva is the best. So this little description here kind of clarifies how Lord Shiva could be the best among Vaishnavas, but yet the gopis are the greatest devotees. Because here it's saying that Lord Shiva is the best of living entities who have accepted material bodies. So like Lord Shiva is kind of like the best in the material world, whereas the gopis are just the best absolutely, objectively. So there's a little explanation there about how Lord Shiva is the best. Another glorification of Shiva is that he enunciates the system of religion. So there's a few examples of how Lord Shiva enunciates systems of religion. First, he's very good at clarifying what is a religious principle and what is not a religious principle. One time, or I guess Lord Ramachandra, he installed a deity of Lord Shiva called Rameshvara. And I guess after some time, there was a debate about what was the meaning of the name Rameshvara. Some of the devotees who were serving there, they were saying Rameshvara means the Lord of Ram, referring to Lord Shiva, which one could translate it like that. So they were saying, no, that's not right. So then other groups of people there, they were saying, no, Rameshvara means Shiva, like Lord Ram, is also God. There's another meaning of this, or interpretation of this word Rameshvara. And then Lord Shiva in his linga form was there, and he was overhearing these explanations and interpretations of what Rameshvara means, and he just couldn't handle it anymore. And he just appeared, and he said, no, that's totally wrong. Rameshvara means that one whose Lord is Ram. Like Ram is the Lord, and then Shiva, he's my Lord. So that's what Rameshvara means, and that was confirmed by Lord Shiva himself. So in that sense, he kind of clarified what is the religious principle here in this case. It was also described that Lord Shiva, he instructed his wife, Durga Devi, about chanting the Mahamantra. So one time Lord Shiva was saying that in the age of Kali, the best method for becoming free from all sins is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Therefore it should be spread all over, everywhere and anywhere. It should be spread in the age of Kali. And then Durga Devi was like, oh, well, what's this Mahamantra? Could you explain to me what it is? So then Lord Shiva said, well, you start by chanting Hare Krishna twice, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Then you chant Krishna twice. Then you chant Hare twice. And that's the first half. Then, for the second half, you have the same kind of schematic, but you just have the components of Hare Rama, Rama, and Hare. So Lord Shiva explained to his wife the Hare Krishna mantra, the way we are chanting it now. And then, so in that sense, he was enunciating the systems of religion, like how one can practice religion in the age of Kali. And he did not just told people what to do, but he himself did it also. So one time he was organizing this Maha Nam Sankirtan, and he invited all the demigods to come, and they were just doing Nam Sankirtan in Godrum Dweep near the Ganga. So all the demigods were there, and they got really, really ecstatic. Got so ecstatic that Vishnu decided to come. And then when Vishnu came, like, the ecstasy just rose even more. And Lord Shiva, he himself got really into the kirtan, and he started dancing wildly. And he was dancing in such a way that nobody ever saw Shiva dance like this before, including his wife. And so then Shiva and Vishnu were dancing together in great ecstasy, and then they ended up uniting, becoming one form. It was like half Shiva and half Vishnu. And the name of this form was called Hari Hara. So Hari Hara, half Hari, half Hara, that's Shiva. So when we went to Mayapur, we actually saw that this deity, it's like half, the left half is, the deity's left half of the body is white, and the deity's right half of the body is black, left half being like Lord Shiva, the right half being like Lord Vishnu. So that was, you can see this. So it's not that they're the same, but that they still maintain their unique individuality, but they were one and just in like ecstasy of being servant and master, that they kind of became one. So that's another example of how Lord Shiva enunciates systems of religion. Then it's also just later it's described Lord Shiva, whose hair is matted on his head, has certainly undergone great austerities and penances. So there's other more glorifications of Lord Shiva, how he's super austere, and purport he's considered the best of the yogis. So in one sense he is the best. I mean, he's pretty austere. It's described that I think he resides in the Himalayas or something, like super austere condition. And he's just constantly absorbed in meditation and pastimes of Krishna. So, well, at one time he actually performed great austerities, really, really intense austerities, that Krishna came and said, "Hey, you're performing all these really intense austerities. What do you want?" Then Lord Shiva said, "Well, I'm doing this so that I want to take on the form of the hill where Nanda Maharaj and his kingdom Nanda Maharaj's house will be." So he wanted to become the hill, Nandagram, Nandish. So I think the name of the hill, another name for the hill is Nandishvara Hill. Like it's in Nandagram where Krishna grew up, his house. So he wanted to be the hill on which Krishna's house was. And that way he can, when all the residents of Braj, including the gopis, walk on the hill, they'll be able to get the dust from their lotus feet. So this is an example of how he performs great austerities and penances. And he does so all the while just meditating on the pastimes of Krishna. So one time he was meditating in Kailash, and he was thinking about Krishna, and he thought, okay, I want to go see Krishna. And he had the purpose of going to see Krishna, and at the same time he wanted to get the remnants of food left over from Krishna's plate. So he walked all the way from, or flew or however he got there. He came to Nandagram to go see Krishna. So he walked up to Nanda Maharaj's house, knocked on the door, and said, and then Mother Yashoda answered. Mother Yashoda said, yes. And Shiva said, I would like to see your son. And then Mother Yashoda was kind of taken aback because he looked pretty gruesome, fearsome. Because, it's described he's got matted hair and snakes and ashes on his body and trident. He's not the most, I don't know, easy on the eyes kind of personality. So she said that, oh great sage, years of austerity have made you look very fearsome. I'm afraid that if I allow you to see my son won't, my pampered son, he won't be able to sleep at night after seeing you. So I'm thinking you should go and you should come back when he's a little older and he'll be able to kind of handle it. So, and then she kind of discreetly closed the door on Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva was totally heartbroken. He's like, oh my God, I just traveled all the way here to see my Lord, and I just got stopped by Mother Yashoda. Oh man. He was really, really heartbroken. Here he is. He's one of his names is kind of like Lord of all the creatures. I don't remember the name, but he's like the Lord of all the creatures, Lord of almost all living entities. But yet here he has no jurisdiction over Krishna's family. Mother Yashoda tells you no, he can't do anything. So all he could do is he just kind of sulked, and he went to a nearby forest and he just started crying and crying and crying. There was a lake that formed there. And then after this incident happened, though, all this gloom started to kind of permeate throughout Nandagram. Krishna, he was sulking like anything. He was crying, nonstop crying. Nobody could console Krishna. He wouldn't take any food. He ignored his playmates. He was just completely sulking. And everyone was just kind of in a sad mood now. All of a sudden, Nanda Maharaj was like, what is going on? So he asked Mother Yashoda, what is happening here? Everybody's sad. There's this environment of gloom. And then Mother Yashoda was also kind of feeling bad. She kind of realized that she might not have treated Lord Shiva so nicely. So Mother Yashoda explained what happened. And then Nanda Maharaj was like, oh, foolish woman, why did you do this? You didn't properly respect an uninvited guest. And because of this, you unwittingly brought curses upon Nandagram, all of us, from ignoring or not treating this uninvited guest properly. So then immediately Lord Nanda Maharaj, he gathered up all the gopas, took Krishna, and they went to go on a search for Lord Shiva to see if they can kind of try to rectify the situation. So they spread out, searched all the forests, and then eventually they came across Lord Shiva there, crying. And so Nanda Maharaj came up to the great sage, Lord Shiva. He offered his obeisances and said, oh, I'm sorry, Lord Shiva. I heard that we totally didn't treat you properly, and so please accept our apologies, and what can we do to make it up to you? So Lord Shiva, he even felt a little bit more bad, because now he came to see Krishna, but now Krishna's father is surrendering to Shiva, which Lord Shiva didn't really want. He was mortified by the thought that Krishna's father is surrendering to me. But he said, oh, I just came because I really wanted to see your son and to get his remnants. So I would be very pleased if I could get the remnants from your son. So then Krishna was there. So first I'd like to see your son and then have his remnants. So then Nanda Maharaj said, sure, no problem. So he took Nanda Maharaj took his son Krishna by the shoulders and kind of whispered in his ear what he should do to kind of properly respect Lord Shiva. And then Krishna understood. So then he came before Lord Shiva, folded palms, and he offered his obeisances to Lord Shiva, and he started to serve. He offered Lord Shiva a seat, and he started to serve Lord Shiva very opulent, very nice food from Nanda Maharaj's kitchen. But Lord Shiva said, "No, I'm sure this food that you've put before me, it surpasses all the delicacies of the heavenly planets. But I made a vow that I would only take the remnants from Krishna's plate. That's the only food I'll take. I won't take anything else." So Nanda Maharaj said, "Okay." So then Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj started feeding Krishna right then and there with all of these preparations and everything until Krishna was satisfied, and then all the remnants from Krishna's meal was put on a large plate and it was given to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva also said that I also made a vow that I would only eat alone. I wouldn't eat in front of others. So you can go. And then they went, and he was very intensely praying with great emotions. The prasadam that he was getting, he started crying in just ecstasy, I guess, having received the Lord's prasadam. And then he ended up telling Nanda Maharaj that, as long as I stay here in your kingdom, please give me the remnants of your son's food. This is what would make me happy. So then this is going on even today in Nandagram. They take the prasadam that's offered to Krishna at Nandagram and they give it to Lord Shiva. And that practice is still going on. So these are kind of examples of, I was just, trying to think of examples of how different glorifications of Lord Shiva in these few verses. So then the other part of these verses describe Chitraketu's reactions to, here Chitraketu is, he's traveling around the universe with Vidyadhara's, beautiful girls. He's leading like a traveling Sankirtan party all over the universe, glorifying the Lord, traveling with these beautiful Vidyadharas. And he comes across his friend, Lord Shiva, embracing his wife, giving a Bhagavatam class in front of all of the great sages and saints. So yesterday we were describing how funny it was. The situation is just funny. We were describing yesterday how funny it was that Lord Shiva, here he is, he's embracing his wife, giving a Bhagavatam class. That's hilarious. And since Shiva and Chitraketu, they were friends, they both understood that this is a funny situation, so Chitraketu started laughing, and it was, Lord Shiva took it in good humor, as like a friend. In fact, Lord Shiva, he himself, he wanted to reciprocate with Chitraketu's kind of laughing and joking and wonder and astonishment. Chitraketu was kind of appreciating the situation, actually. He was appreciating, oh wow, only Lord Shiva could do this. Embrace his wife and at the same time be in front of great sages and saints. But Lord Shiva was like, well, if you think this is funny, your situation's also really funny. I mean, here you are, you just had 10 million wives. You just divorced them, and now you're doing traveling Sankirtan with these beautiful Vidyadhara girls. And here you are appreciating how wonderful it is that I'm embracing my wife, giving Bhagavatam class, and here you are leading a traveling Sankirtan party, and you're with all these 10 million Vidyadhara girls or whatever. So he wanted to reciprocate this way and say, well, how wonderful it is in your situation. Here you're making, how wonderful my situation is, but yours is also pretty funny. But he didn't say it because his wife was there, and his wife might not have liked him to say this. Sometimes husbands have this experience where they want to say something, but their wife is in the room, so then they kind of are checked. They don't say it because they know that it'll make their wife mad. So Lord Shiva was in this predicament. it's not that what Chitraketu did was offensive. He was, at least at this point, he was just saying, "Oh, it's wonderful, it's astonishing. I actually was appreciating it." Because in order for something to be an offense, there has to be some ill motive in the heart. You know, it's not that if you make a mistake or you breach some social etiquette, which is inevitable, no matter where you are, especially in temples or whatnot, that it's an offense necessarily. It's a mistake, and you say, "I'm sorry," and you move on, and that's it. It's like there's nothing more to be done than that. But something is an offense if there's like actually like an ill motive in the heart, like you're being like doing a real offense. But when Parvati overheard Chitraketu say, "Oh, how wonderful it is that Shiva's embracing his wife in this assembly," she took it to be offensive. She took it very personally, and she took it kind of subjectively too. She it was described that she kind of misunderstood Chitraketu, what his intention was. Shiva understood what was going on. They were friends. He understood the mood, but Parvati kind of didn't really she misunderstood what Chitraketu meant by what he said. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to have misunderstandings. It goes on even among very elevated personalities like Parvati, and and I'm just thinking. I was just also thinking that if this misunderstanding took place when there was like a face-to-face communication going on, I was just thinking how easy it is to have misunderstandings when we're doing emails or something. Like, because in our teacher's training course, one of the things we learned was that only 7% of communication takes place through words, and 93% takes place through nonverbal communication, like, the tone of your voice and the gesture, the facial gestures, and a lot gets lost when you're only transmitting words through emails. So there's a lot more chances for misunderstandings in emails. But it could even happen when there's like personal interactions going on, which can happen. And then so we can always, as devotees, we're trying to see things from, kind of like a more objective perspective. There's always more than one side to things. There's more than two sides to things. There's more than three sides to things. Things aren't always so like. Many times we take things so personally and so subjective, and we don't always understand what's going on from a more removed, objective perspective. And then as aspiring devotees, we're trying to see things in the absolute. We're trying to see things more from the absolute perspective, and because we're trying to please the Lord of the absolute reality. So that's kind of like one of the lessons we can learn from that response. But Lord Shiva, he reacted. I mean, he was kind of cool about it. He didn't, or I'm sorry, Chitraketu, when he kind of ended up getting cursed by Parvati for just not doing really anything wrong, so to speak. He responded very nicely. He responded with great humility. He just kind of accepted it. He said, whatever you wish. If that's the way it is, then I'll accept it. Very good example of that verse in the Brahma's verse in the 10th canto about how anyone who patiently waits to receive the mercy of Krishna, all the while tolerating his reactions to his different karmas that he's supposed to receive, all the while he's glorifying Krishna and offering obeisances, he's actually the rightful person to gain liberation and to perfect one's life. So Chitraketu was very nicely, because he didn't like react. Here we often hear the phrase that we should act, not react to things. Because if you react to something, then it kind of just furthers the chain of karma. Whereas if you don't react, then you nullify that chain and then you stop it. Because there's this constant chain going on of action and reaction. If you just react to something, then it's just going to continue. You're going to continue getting reactions, and it's going to go on forever, which it has been. It's like this self-perpetuating thing. But you have the ability to stop that chain in your life. And so if something comes to you, somebody criticizes you, somebody misunderstands you, somebody mistreats you, you can actually stop that. Okay, you can receive it and then just say, okay, this is my karma, and then don't react to it, but just continue going on glorifying Krishna. And that's how you would be applying that verse. There's this little story, famous story from the Pali Canon. It's like this famous Buddhist story of there's this one Brahmana who became homeless for one reason or another. His life wasn't going so well, and he ended up becoming a little bitter, and he started to just criticize people, and he was kind of becoming bitter and had a bad attitude. So he came to Lord Buddha, who was there, and he started to criticize Buddha, saying all these nasty things, insulting things, and then Buddha just kind of asked this guests, do guests sometimes come to you? And then the Brahmin said, yeah, sometimes. And then the Buddha said, okay, do you offer them some food to eat when they come? And then the Brahmin said, yeah, sure, sometimes. And then Buddha said, well, if you offer them some food to eat, but they don't accept it, then who does that food belong to? And the Brahmin thought about it and said, well, the food belonged to me because I offered it, they didn't accept, so it belongs to me. And then Buddha said, yes. So here you are, you're offering me these insults, and you're offering me this criticism, but if I choose not to accept it, then it doesn't belong to me, it's yours. So I'm not sharing in your insults, I'm not sharing in your company, so all of this belongs to you. So this is a nice little story. I mean, we don't want that other person to have all the garbage either. Somebody's dumping garbage on us, we don't want it to go back to them, we want it to be done with. But still, we don't have to accept it if somebody's dumping garbage on us. We can choose not to react. So anyway, Krishna places us in all kinds of situations where we might be mistreated, misunderstood, criticized, whatever. Usually, and he might the thing is, you're going to keep facing these situations with someone you just can't get along with very well, or someone's mistreating you or something, and you feel like you just need a change of things, you need to change the situation, you need to go somewhere else. What's going to happen is that wherever you go, you're going to find the same situation, the same person who's nagging you, the same issues are going to come up, just in a different place, different names, and whatever. But it's going to be the same situation because Krishna's trying to teach you a lesson in whatever situation you're having trouble with. So Krishna, he arranges lessons for us to learn. So I mean, that's something we can take from this pastime of how different devotees react to different things, how we can react if we're being mistreated or misunderstood or something. Okay, so I'll stop here. Is there anything anyone would like to add?
How we can understand whether we have understood the lesson or not.
How can we know if we understood the lesson that Krishna is trying to give us? Like, let's say somebody's mistreating us, or whatever, and how do we know that we're learning what we're supposed to be learning from this arrangement that Krishna made for us to learn something from? Well, you can kind of do some introspection, and you can see, okay, this adversity came in my life. How did I react to it? Did I get angry? Did I when you look back, after you kind of sober up a little bit from the incident, you can kind of look back at how you did, kind of evaluate. Oh, I kind of reacted a little bit too harshly, or I felt like this passion and reaction come over me, or something. You can kind of tell if you're a little bit introspective how you're doing, whether you actually learn the lesson or not. And a lot of times we're going to fail. We're going to be tested, and we're going to react. We're going to do something. We're going to say something we wish we wouldn't have said. We're going to behave and do something that we wish we would not have done. So anyway, those were tests we failed, but that doesn't mean that we won't get any more opportunities. There'll be so many opportunities for us to come to a point where we'll actually pass these tests. Like I was thinking in that pastime of the Buddha, what happened to that other person, if something similar happened with Parvati, but what happened with Brahman who's so if you can, one way that you can know that you pass is if you see the other person who is insulting you, and they have a transformation of heart because you didn't react. That's a sign, could be a sign that you indeed passed that test. But you can also just think like, because other ways you can pass the test is if you find yourself continuing to contemplate on that mistreatment. Many times devotees get stuck on this. Oh, he did this to me, and he did that to me, and she said this to me, and whatever. You're just constantly meditating on this how somebody mistreated you, and how that was unfair, and whatever. If you find yourself continuously like thinking like this, okay, well maybe you didn't pass that test. Because all these tests are opportunities for us to be able to practice humility, to be humble. Oh wow, I got mistreated. Okay, you accept it, and then you just go on. But if you react and you constantly bring it up, you just can't let it go, then you probably didn't pass. So those are my thoughts on that. Is that Baladev?
Hare Krishna. Very wonderful and enlightening points on this class, just the whole theme of it. I don't have anything really to say. I just have some points, some verification of your points from some of the scriptures in this regard, especially because normally when we'll see Lord Shiva, I actually got inspired with these lessons from one right after Maharaj lecture that I keep watching over and over and over again. And he mentions this pastime of Lord Shiva and King Chitraketu. And so he made the point that what we can learn from this incident is, just in generally the fundamental point of how to respect everyone, even if we can't understand the situation. So normally if we see somebody like Lord Shiva, embracing his wife, giving a Bhagavatam class, we'll make an offense, naturally. And so what are the feedback?
Somebody turn down the volume.
So in this regard, I remember one lecture my brother gave in regards to a similar point. He mentioned the pastime of Bhrigu Muni, how Bhrigu Muni insulted, Lord Shiva, and then kicked Vishnu. Vishnu forgave him. He actually, Vishnu transformed, like you made the point that this is how we can learn that if we learn the lesson that Vishnu, because he forgave him or glorified them, that transformed Bhrigu Muni's heart. So that was actually a nice point in that regard. And in this past time, I remember one lecture my brother mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, the last section, there's 3 sections in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and the last section is called Sheshakan. And in chapter 9, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur mentions this pastime, Bhrigu Muni, that how when we see Bhrigu Muni, we may think this is an offender, this is a Vaishnava aparadi, but we don't have full vision of that. And so he makes a point in that pastime is that even though a Vaishnava may superficially appear to act like, lowly people, materialistics, people, we may be ruined if we criticize them. So he was like, I only see one solution to this problem of running the risk of Vaishnava Aparad. He says, one should humbly glorify every Vaishnava. And so these points are very significant, maybe that I feel are not brought up necessarily. And in this lecture, Rananath Maharaj makes a point, over and over again, how one should respect everyone. Because like you said, we don't have a complete picture of everything. We're trying to see everything on the absolute plane. But we're, we're, minute, and we try to see everything on a, small plane, absolute plane. So that's one point I'd like to make. I have a couple of
No, nice point. Nice. Anybody else have anything?
Hare Krishna. On this point of humbly offering respect to everyone, I wonder, just wondering what would be like a practical method to move in that direction, because we hear this is actually the mentality of an Uttamadhikari, the most advanced devotee. He sees the Lord in everyone's heart, and therefore is able to love and respect every living entity. Otherwise, for the Madhyamadhikari, it's not really recommended that he offers, obeisances to every living entity. It's recommended that he avoids a certain class of living entity. Of course, respectfully, offering respect, but he avoids a certain group. So yeah, definitely at a certain point, one would want to cultivate the vision of an Uttamadhikari. But for persons who are more in the entry level of devotional service, then it would make sense to cultivate intermediate. You know what I'm saying?
One thing in terms of his point about respecting everybody, I think everybody can practice that. Let's say somebody does something that's not so easy to understand. I don't understand what they're doing. You don't have to jump to conclusions right away, like, oh, he did this because he has such and such bad quality, and he's this or that or whatever. A lot of people jump to conclusions why somebody did something, but you could just say, I don't understand. It's not revealed. It doesn't matter what level you're at. If something is not you don't know why someone is behaving a certain way or not, then you just, I don't know. I mean, you can still offer respects, okay, I might not understand this, and we can still, try to see, oh, he's, I don't know if he's a devotee or not, but at least I can respect him as another living entity. Yeah.
I mean, I really admire your simplicity, and I think that what you just described, actually, to do that requires a highly purified intelligence and a pretty significant degree of sense control. But for persons who are still quite entangled in different material desires, and the foundation of that is this desire to be superior to others and glorified and whatever. So then the desire to find fault with others, thus feeling oneself superior to them, that's a really strong force in one's consciousness. So then the intellectual thing that you were talking about, that takes more purity. So therefore, what is the practical method? Because we hear, it's not an intellectual or mental adjustment, Krishna consciousness. So basically it seems that one will have to become Krishna conscious in order to actually respect and love all living entities. It's not a mental adjustment, Anyway, this isn't at all to disregard what you're saying, but it just seems like kind of a high-level application. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyone else?
Well, we can, I mean, certainly apply it just, I guess, through having knowledge. I mean, if we're not there yet, obviously we're going to get the reactions of committing Vaishnava aparad. Most of us are committing that. So, right. But that doesn't mean that we can't try. I was just saying we can try. We have the theoretical understanding. Bhagavad Gita in the introduction, it says, at least we should theoretically accept. So at least we theoretically know that we should be behaving in a certain way with different devotees. So, some knowledge there. Then you have read nectar of instruction. You understand how you should relate with different devotees and how Madhyamadikaris they should see distinctions between devotees, those who are envious, the innocent, and the Lord, and that distinction. And there's, like a lot of detailed explanations as far as how one can see. Another thing is that there's this, we have like we have like a duty to truth. So if we know something to be a certain way, we have a duty to, like, say, this is the truth. So if someone says something wrong, or which we know is wrong, we can correct the statement. But at the same time, we have a duty to be humble. So we don't have to like take it personally. We just say, oh, that statement, here's actually the correct understanding. Here's the truth. If we know what that actually is, we can say what it is. But that doesn't mean we have to like get on their case and be overly heavy and all this other stuff with that. We can just say, okay, here's the actual truth, and then just kind of try to be detached. Again, it's ultimately a cultivation, and you have to be more Krishna conscious to be able to really do it. But at least knowing what the goal is, helps you to be able to get there. And I guess just having a greater understanding of the philosophy and trying to apply it, failing, learning from it, going back, doing some introspection, trying again. Might have to fail so many times, but ultimately you'll eventually get to the point where you start learning, it'll kick in. And then ultimately, and also with the help of devotees, and especially senior devotees, who have gone through this, or just anyway, senior devotees in general, they'll be able to help you to be able to see things in the proper perspective. If you don't know, you could just ask. Say, hey, I saw this one situation where this devotee did this, such and such. I hear that I should be respecting all devotees, but it's really difficult for me to come to a point where I can actually apply that in this particular situation. Dear senior devotee, can you please help me understand this, because I'm having a difficult time. So I guess approaching senior devotees is like the ultimate solution, I guess, practical solution to this problem. Okay. You have something more to add?
I have permission to speak. The Uttamadhikari frame of mind is that they don't see any offense, they don't see any mistake, so there is nothing for them to correct. The fact that we see something wrong, either directed towards us or towards someone else, then that's a area that, oh, okay, I have to work on it. There are two things that I can think of, like off the cuff. One is, in the Bhagavad Gita, we are given an instruction in the 6th chapter. Yato yato nischalati manaha. When we do see the mind deviate or go towards, that which is unwholesome, then Krishna says, a conscious, deliberate effort with detachment and determination, you bring the mind under the control of the self. So we call it sadhana, it's a practice. That is something we have to practice. And the motivation for that practice is Lord Krishna has given me an instruction. I've accepted Bhagavad Gita as my guiding book or value. And second is, I would like Srila Prabhupada to be pleased, because I'm trying to live my life under the shelter of Prabhupada. Like, so we ask ourselves, what does shelter of Prabhupada mean? Shelter of Prabhupada means that we allow ourselves to be guided by his teachings and that which is pleasing to him. So it may be displeasing or uncomfortable or distasteful or really for me, but I would like to please Prabhupada. And to what Daita said, each of us may have a different level of understanding of what would be pleasing to Prabhupada. So if I'm, for example, if we have a little toddler or a baby and a toddler and a man, not all of them can run, right? But if the baby crawls, then the spiritual master or the parent will say, well, that's what they can do. They cannot run. At least they're doing this. Someone else can, toddle, I guess. So this is what they can do. Someone else can sprint. Oh, that's what they can do. But each of us needs to move from our position to a higher position. And whatever that step is that's how Krishna will inspire us. And that is pleasing to them. So in some cases, someone will say, okay, this should not bother me. In some cases, they may react and, like he said, will go back and introspect and say, yesterday I was a little out of it, sorry. Someone else may say, I'm not going to react to this situation at all. And someone else may say, oh, I didn't even see that as an offense. What was it that you said that was offending? I didn't even see it that way. So each person may see it differently and respond differently in a way that is pleasing to Krishna. That's the practice. What should I do in this situation that will bring me closer to Krishna and perhaps even that person closer to Krishna? That's the practicing of respect. The first step of respect is to not to disconnect the issue from the person. We usually point to a person, that is the fellow who is the source of my problem. We're trying to separate the issue from the person. But our anchor is Guru. That would be pleasing to Guru. I have to practice that. And if I don't know what that is, I will ask senior devotees, other devotees, what do you think is most pleasing in this case? Okay, they may say, take a step that is, this big. Oh no, that's too big for me. It's very uncomfortable. Okay, can you take any step? Yes, I can take, like a 3 inches forward. Very good. Do it because it is pleasing to Krishna, 3 inches forward. And Krishna will be like, you moved 3 inches. For lifetimes you haven't moved. This is great. Very nice. Let me give you some mercy. That's... Yeah.
My response is going to be a little different in the sense that I'm more the practical one, like the application. No, it is practical, what you're saying. But he said, what for the beginners who are and I was also relating and I was thinking my own experience of how I struggled with this aspect of respect. And I was thinking it's so abstract. How can we respect everyone? Trinadapi Sunichena. That's always been a challenge. This is nothing personal, but it's a general thing in ISKCON, whatever I'm going to, it's not any specific person I'm talking about. But respect is a very devotional quality. But to come to that level of devotion, it's also a culture. You have to actually accept the aspect of respect on a cultural platform. And that cultural aspect is I'll take, for instance, the Indian upbringing. I don't know so much about Western thing because I'm Indian. I remember when we were growing up, my parents, if somebody comes to our house, if we are doing our homework at the table, whatever, we have to get up, stand up, and say, welcome. And if we continue to do what we are doing, we'll be chastised in front of the guest only. You're so arrogant that you can't welcome the guest. I never understood why. But now, the next generation, when I go to India, the present generation is not trained like that. And I can see they're very casual, they just don't care. Uh, but that puts a samskara, the cultural thing puts a samskara. Like when elders come, you show respect by standing up. And I'm sure in many other cultures also it's there, not just the Indian culture. So, and I was thinking, like, I remember many years ago, it was very hard for me to sit in a certain devotees class. So, and I would just keep drawing, to distract my mind. I'm sitting physically in the class, but mentally absent because I can't understand what they're speaking. And that's the tendency we have. If somebody is giving a class, we don't like, nowadays it's iPhones. People like, class is going on, but just imagine the devotee who is sitting on the Vyasasana and giving a class and you're distracted. How much respect are giving you to the speaker? Because the speaker is spending hours together, contemplating how should I give this class. How like he's preparing, the whole week, my one day of class. And, oh, you're so, we don't say it verbally, but how we show is like we are spaced out or we are on iPhone. So that's where the cultural part is. We show respect. Even if we are not able to follow, we just sit with the thing, Prabhupada is speaking to me through this purport and I have to learn. But we learn definitely one thing. Definitely, the whole class we may not understand, but there'll be one thing that Krishna, if with that sincerity, one sits in the class and hears the class, Krishna reveals something for us to meditate upon. And the other thing is like even prasadam when you're on, I do that. Sometimes I'm just sitting, I'm so much like, I want to finish my prasadam and run for my next service. And sometimes somebody comes, I don't give them, I don't get up and give them a chair to sit, especially if they're older to me. I've done that mistake. So how many of us, like, Murari Prabhu, if he comes, if we're all sitting in the table, we are eating, and Murari, how many of us have made, get up, Prabhu, you please sit. If we culturally start showing respect like that, eventually it becomes a devotional thing. So when you said in the beginning, how do we do it? I was thinking about just these few examples, like, there may be so many other examples devotees may want to share.
Um, thing. Okay. Well, thank you for those nice comments. Well, okay, Charan slowly, that's the last comment.
Just quick that also, I think the problem really comes in the close association of devotees, where when we're new, that sense of appreciation is there and familiarity, our respect goes down. So just understanding and reminding ourselves about the glorious position of Vaishnav, anyone who's taking up devotional service, anyone who accepts Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so rare in this world. Among so many thousands of transcendentalists, there's so many Gyanis, so many self-realized, very rare as a Bhakta. So that's something practical that we can meditate on, and we can read the glories of the Vaishnavas and the culture as she's describing, also offering respects. I mean, Rupa Goswami says when you see initiated devotee, you should actually offer respect. So due to practical things, we may not do that every time. That's unfortunate. But at least mentally, even if we don't feel like it or our mind is saying something else, that type of respect should be there in all devotees. So just one other practical thing I was thinking. I think it's related. If that first step is there, then yeah.
all the devotees made really nice points, and I just want to just kind of verify, all of them basically, especially in regards to what Acharya just said. A nice point that I remember Prabhupada mentioned in the introduction to Gita. He basically said it's not possible to, offer your, respects like physically to people. So sometimes we can't remember all these mantra pranams, but at least we can offer Dandava pranams in our mind mentally. And Prabhupada mentions this in introduction to Gita. He says we work not with our body, but with our mind and intelligence. So it's, we may offer our physical respects to someone, but we may be disrespecting them in our mind. So real respect is kind of mental. It's not, the Vaishnavas are unlimited, and we're going to make mistakes and not offer respects to everyone. But as long as we carry the glories within our heart and our mind, then, Krishna sees our sincerity. So I just kind of wanted to appreciate that last point, especially of all the devotees, but in regards to what Acharya just said. So, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thanks for everyone sharing nice comments. So, very much for the Prabhupada. Ki jai.